right, boys and girls, the first fairy tale of the week is Jack and the Beanstalk. Be on the lookout for some of those elements of fairy tales while we're reading Jack and the Beanstalk.
Bye.
Once there was a boy named Jack who lived with his mother. They were very poor. One day, Jack's mother told Jack to sell their cow at market to get money for food. On his way there, he met an old man. "I'll give you magic beans for her," the old man said. Magic beans, thought Jack. They sound exciting. He gave the old man the cow and took the beans in return. Then he went home to his mother. Did you notice any elements of fairy tales in this book? Maybe you noticed that there were magic beans, magic, or that the story started with the word once. It didn't say once upon a time, but it said once there was a boy. So that's pretty similar. Jack's mother was extremely cross. "Silly boy," she shouted. "Thanks to you, we have no cow and no money." She threw the beans out of the window and sent Jack to bed. The next morning, Jack was amazed when he looked out of the window. A giant beanstalk had sprung up while he was sleeping. Jack ran outside and began to climb the beanstalk. Up and up he went, higher and higher, until he reached the top. There he found a road which led to a big house. Jack's tummy was rumbling with hunger, so he knocked on the large wooden door. A giant woman answered, and Jack asked if she would give him some breakfast. "You will be breakfast if my husband finds you," she told Jack. "He's much bigger than me and he eats children." But Jack begged and pleaded, and at last she let him in. She gave him some bread and milk. Soon they heard loud footsteps. The giant man was coming. "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman," the giant roared. The giant's wife quickly hid Jack in a cupboard. "Don't be so silly," the giant's wife said. "You'll smell the sausages I cooked. Now sit down and eat." Do you recognize any other elements of fairy tales? I think he might be evil with a good wife, so good versus evil. After wolfing down 3 plates of sausages, the giant took out 2 big sacks filled with gold coins. He started to count the coins, but he was sleepy after his big breakfast and soon began to snore. When the giant's wife wasn't looking, Jack crept out of the cupboard and grabbed a sack. Then he rushed out of the house, along the road, and straight down the beanstalk. Jack's mother was overjoyed to see him, and she was even happier when she saw the gold. They lived well while the money lasted, but after a year it had all been spent. Once again, Jack and his mother had nothing to eat. "Don't worry, Mother," said Jack. "I'll just go back up the beanstalk to the giant's house." And so he did. Just as before, Jack knocked on the door and begged the giant's wife for something to eat. "Go away," she told him. "The last time you were here, a sack of gold disappeared. My husband was really cross." But once again, Jack begged and pleaded, and at last the woman let him in. She gave him some bread and milk and hid him in the cupboard. Soon the giant stomped in, bellowing, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman." "Nonsense," said the giant's wife. "You smell the yummy soup I've made." Peeping through a crack in the cupboard door, Jack saw the giant slurp down a big barrel full of soup. Then the giant took out a fat red hen and shouted, "Lay!" To Jack's amazement, the hen laid a golden egg. Jack waited until the giant was asleep. Then when the giant's wife wasn't looking, Jack crept out of the cupboard and snatched the hen. Fast as lightning, he dashed out of the house, along the road, and down the beanstalk. Jack and his mother lived very well on the money they made from the hen's golden eggs. But Jack wanted to climb the beanstalk one last time. Wait a minute. How many times did he go up the beanstalk? Right, 3 times. Oh, that's what we were looking for, numbers 3 or 7. He knew the giant's wife would not let him in again. So when she wasn't looking, he sneaked into the house and crawled into the cupboard. Before long, the giant came crashing in.
Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman,
He thundered. You smell the steaks I've cooked, his wife said, and she put a platter of steaks in front of him. After gobbling up the steaks, the giant took out a golden harp and said,
Sing.
The harp played a lullaby, and soon the giant was fast asleep. Jack sprang out, took the harp, and began to run. But the harp cried, Master, Master! And the giant woke up. With a roar, he leapt up and ran after Jack.
Roar.
Holding the harp tightly, Jack scrambled down the beanstalk and yelled, Mother, Mother, bring the axe! Jack took the axe and started to chop down the beanstalk. The giant quickly climbed back up to the top before it snapped in two, and that was the last time Jack saw him. With the hen and the magic harp, Jack and his mother lived happily ever after, and they were never hungry again. The end. Boys and girls, can you think of some of the elements of fairy tales? Pause and tell your learning coach what fairy tale elements you noticed in this story. Make sure you think about the characters, the setting, and how the story began and how the story ended. Share your ideas with your learning coach. Now we're going to look at this elements of fairy tales. Let's see what you think. Did the story have the words once upon a time? I'd had the word once. We'll give it to him. How about talking animals? No, it didn't have talking animals. It did have an animal that listened to the master and laid a golden egg, but they didn't really talk. How about 3 or 7? Definitely, he climbed the beanstalk 3 times. Was the setting a castle, a cottage, or woods? Yeah, he lived in the woods with his mother. How about magic? Was there magic in this story? There sure was. There were magic beans. Was there a problem in this story? Pause the video and tell your learning coach what the problem was. I hope you said that the problem was Jack and his mother were so hungry because they didn't have enough money to buy food. That was the first problem. But there were many other problems that you could have shared, like when the giant was chasing Jack and Jack had to solve that problem. How did Jack solve his problems? Because that would be a solution. Did they have a solution for their problems? Pause the video and tell your learning coach. Yeah, I hope you said that some of the solutions were that Jack got the hen that laid golden eggs and the little gold change of the gold coins so that they could pay for some food so that they were no longer hungry. They also chopped down the beanstalk at the end to solve the problem of the giant chasing them. Was there good versus evil? Definitely. The giant was evil, but his wife was very good and kind. And lastly, was there any royalty? No, there were no kings or queens in this story. Let's count how many points Jack and the Beanstalk got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Uh-oh, I didn't do the last one. Did it have a happy ending? It sure did. 7 and 1 more is 8. Very good, boys and girls. This story had 8 elements of fairy tales. Keep up the great work.